Good morning. Majo John Madden in my hotel room in the wonderful Hotel Mar y Tierra in Veracruz, Mexico. Looking out my huge open window at the Bay of Veracruz, Puerto Veracruz, on the east coast of Mexico, looking over the Gulf of Mexico. I am this morning thinking of the phrase, nothing makes the world seem so small as to have friends at a distance. I left Asheville, North Carolina on the spine of the Blue Ridge Mountains just about 3 years ago now. Of the many people I cared about during the 16 years I lived there, the one I cared about most deeply and still care about tremendously is a woman named Diana Buchanan. When I had moved into that subsidized seniors apartment building called Battery Park Apartments, it was one of the original grand hotels of the South that had been remodeled to be subsidized senior apartments. And I hated it immediately when I moved in there. I was up on the 5th floor with no access to the out of doors without going down an elevator. I hated being with seniors, but it was cheap and clean, and you could stay there forever at good rent. And my friends leaned on me to stay, although I said, no, I want out of this place. I resisted getting to know my senior neighbors. I didn't want to be with them. And the one I resisted meeting the most was a very heavy-set woman who sat out front of the building every day in overalls, chain smoking all day. I was really fighting the cigarette habit back then and wanted nothing to do with her. She always seemed to have a circle of friends around her, but that did not make any difference to me. A few months after moving in there, I had a pretty terrible stroke and just about died. When after 3 days I came out of the hospital, I felt like I had a new lease on life. I really wanted to be fully alive. And when a friend dropped me in front of the Battery Park Apartments, I thought, I'm going to start with my neighbors. I'm going to get to know them. And there she was, right in front of the car I stepped out of, and I said, all right, I'm going to start with her. And my first sentence to her was maybe one of the 3 favorite things I've ever said to anybody in my life. That totally surprised me, but it felt right as it spilled out of my mouth. I went up to her and said, hey, you got an extra smoke? And I proceeded to embrace smoking, embrace her. We became what we called soul friends. And I have a picture of her, I think, right here. That's Diana Buchanan with my very special puppy, Pancho, who I gave the name Pancho because when I found her at the Humane Society, in a very similar way, I was surprised to find that I wanted that dog after already saying to myself, Chihuahua, I don't like Chihuahuas, fat, I don't like fat dogs, not even very attractive, I thought. And that dog just locked eye contact with me and would not let me go until I said out loud, my doggy. And Pancho is one of the best dogs of my life. I named Pancho that because the fat Mexican sidekick of the Cisco Kid, cowboy show of my youth, was Pancho, fat Mexican like her. Diana taught me to give her the AKA of Panchita because she was a girl and Pancho was not technically accurate with the O ending. World-class friendship. One of the best of my entire life. I've been without phone service until a month ago, maybe just 2 weeks ago. and was not able to call her. It was the only way I was able to reach her. And she had been in failing health, and I'm worried about her. I've left a couple of messages at the office, but the new person working there may not know me and may not be intending to call me back. I do have one Facebook friend in the building, and I just left a long message for her saying, "What can you tell me about Diana?" I could talk for a long, long time about what a special person she is. I've been technically homeless for 4 years on the road. She had been homeless for most of her life before living there, and she's Mexican. Grew up in Mexico, had her first terrible brush with the psychiatry establishment in Mexico City, and terrible karma with the psychiatry industry is part of my story too. So we had so much in common, including that at one point, right before the COVID hit and I left Asheville, we ran with a third partner, a guy named John Clayball, was riding his bike past that place every morning and ended up hanging out with me and Diana every morning early. We called ourselves the Merry Pranksters, and I've made a post about that. And he and I are back in touch with each other, although he lives in Florida now. I talked with him in the middle of the night last night. Diana, wherever you are in the cosmos, I'm going to try to find you. And if you're in some spirit place, I will send you a spirit message of some kind. And I would not be surprised if you answer me back. Love you, babe.